were some very interesting films in 2017, from huge box office successes like The Last Jedi and Beauty and the Beast, to groundbreaking achievements in cinematography for movies like Blade Runner 2049 and Dunkirk. The Oscar nominations for 2017 are out, but I want to mention a film that may have taken home a prize if there were a category for religious film, and that is The Case for Christ, and is the true story of how Lee Strobel, an award-winning journalist and reporter, set out to disprove the resurrection of Jesus Christ. I'm Ben Davies, this is Pure Hollywood. The Case for Christ was released April 7, 2017 and grossed just over $17 million worldwide. The budget for this film was not released, but if you sit down and watch it, you will notice right off the bat the quality, which also means money, and I would guess it's probably around $15 to $17 million as is. Now, as far as box office goes, The Case for Christ lands at 21st all-time for Christian films, beating out a movie I was just in a couple years ago called I'm Not Ashamed, which was also released by PureFlix. Shout out to all you guys. But was beat out by two of my favorite films I've been a part of, War Room and Courageous, that sit at 14th and 6th, and then are all still trying to catch the granddaddy of them all, The Passion of the Christ, that grossed $600 million worldwide. Might take a while. And I have to say off the bat, I do not want a separate category for religious films. I think that's just stupid. Like saying, oh, this is the best movie with a female lead, like some category, when it should just be about the story, the characters, the narrative, and how well you told the story. However, you cannot ignore the very clear bias that many critics have towards Christian films themselves. I mean, you think they were grading these things with disdain like they do for most DC superhero movies. Now, before I begin, obviously I'm a Christian and this is a Christian movie and I will try to be objective as possible, but I know I have biases. But I want to encourage people to watch this movie even if you're not a Christian. And please watch it alongside a movie that's been the box office buzz of the year, 3 Billboards Outside Ebbing, Missouri. Just watch these two movies both as is. Try to ignore the fact that one is a Christian movie and one is a clear example of leftist propaganda, and just tell me which movie you like the best. And on one hand, you have an Oscar buzz movie that everyone's talking about, and one movie you probably never heard about. Why is that? Alright, so I've already talked way too much, so let's just dive into this. Please, before I go ahead, spoiler alert. Now, for my viewer review, I'm gonna give this movie a 4 out of 5. And I want to reiterate this fact, despite the fact that I've been in a lot of faith-based movies, this is not a genre I watch. Like, literally, this is bottom of my list of things that I just go out to see. However, this film is wonderful. The relationship is very interesting, but I always like the detective stories anyway. You always want to get to the bottom of what's going on. And it almost feels like a really cool Law and Order episode getting to see this guy struggle into this. But what's great is it is so unforced. And you can see a very real and awesome relationship between these two people, and a guy that has a clear and wonderful path in this journalism career that he has, hitting a massive crossroads. Now, I think it is very interesting and refreshing for the skeptic community as a whole, because Lee obviously starts out as a devout atheist, and he's going to try to disprove the resurrection of Christ, but he doesn't dive into it out of an area of just disdain and disgust for these people, and he wants to prove them wrong. No, it's out of a real place of love and curiosity. He wants to save his marriage, and that's what sets him on this path, to disprove the resurrection of Jesus. And because it is so not heavy-handed and all the characters are believable, the situations they're in, and you'll like everyone on screen, you cannot help but be overwhelmed with the story and the process they're telling it. The performances are also great. Mike Vogel plays Lee Strobel, and he is very charismatic, entertaining to watch the entire time. There's a great emotional roller coaster that goes on in this movie. Erica Christensen also does a terrific job playing the wife of Lee, and my personal favorite is a supporting actor who I wish could have been nominated in some small category, Mike Paniski, I probably mispronounced his name, who plays Lee's co-worker Kenny London. Now, obviously the movie is not perfect. There's some things I think they could have done a little bit better. You can always hope a movie gets a little tighter and there's no air in it at all. There's a few scenes that drag, especially towards the end. There's one specific scene, and it's tough to recover from a dragging scene at the end because you want to finish on a crescendo, and you've already done so much work. If a scene drags in the beginning, you kind of make up for it, but not at the end. There's a few unnecessary flashbacks, I believe, but as a whole, it's still a wonderful movie. You'll laugh, you'll cry, you'll be intrigued, you'll be on the edge of your seat in a few places. It's great. Really well done movie. And for my critic review, I'm going to give it a 3 out of 5. Now, particularly in narrative-driven stories, the characters and the performances are key to move the process forward, to move the plot forward. But the score is always so important when it's just two people talking, to really engage the audience, help you to feel and just create power and presence in every scene. And the score by Will Musser is awesome. It's absolutely phenomenal when you watch the movie. The shot selection by John was also very well done, as well as having some of just the conversation pieces when it's two people trying to give exposition information about the resurrection of Christ. It gets very boring, but they do a good job of pacing the characters around a room, creating interesting shots, and also cutting together with the B story that's pretty interesting as well. The movie itself has all the necessary beats we love. The catalyst, the loss of hope, the no turning back, there's great moments in it strung out throughout, as well as relationships you enjoy, the romance. It has everything you'd want in a good, well done movie. Now, my faith in values, I'm gonna give this movie a 5 out of 5. But you didn't see that coming. Now, what I think is wonderful about this film is the antagonist. It's not man versus man. It's not a guy versus some angry professor trying to kill him and all of his beliefs. It's a man struggling with himself, his own beliefs. The Bible says we don't struggle with flesh and blood, we struggle with principalities and outside forces. And in this movie, you see a man struggling with these ideas and using his gifts as a journalist and a reporter to dig into the genesis of Jesus and why, as a religious figure, he sets himself apart from all others. Now, this movie doesn't get into theology and spirituality because there's so many movies that do that better anyway. What this movie did a fantastic job of is staying in its lane. It didn't bite off more than it could chew, even from a religious standpoint. And one of the reasons I think it's such a great meeting ground between people that are agnostic or atheist, which are some of my favorite conversations, honestly, to have when everyone respects each other and can find some common ground, is you see a guy in both positions. You get to see a guy on both spectrums, and you get to see the process in between that you can have that conversation through. And this is done through following facts and truth. Now, obviously, the most important element of faith, even in Christianity, is going to be faith, and it talks about this a lot in the Bible. However, just because there's always going to be an element of faith, it also doesn't mean that the evidence and the truth is not going to point you directly to God and Jesus Christ. And that's what is so interesting in this movie. You see a guy focusing on one point, just the resurrection. You get to see these arguments, these complex events, and all the information kind of compiled all at once. And that's really what I like about this movie. It gives you some common ground. It gives you a place to meet for people that are on different levels, maybe in their spiritual walk or that don't believe at all, to stand together in a little bit of respect, just standing on facts and truth in general. That I then think when people do find that level, that rock, that common place, they can launch into deeper and even more important conversations, whether you are a believer or not. I'm Ben Davies. This is Pure Hollywood. Alright, if you like this video and others like it, please consider becoming a premium member to The Rebel. That way you'll have first access to Pure Hollywood and the entire Rebel lineup.